So as I mentioned at the top of the show, our great friend from Lever News, David Sirota, is out with a fantastic new podcast called The Master Plan, all about 2 years worth of reporting into the plot to normalize and legalize corruption in America. And David joins us now. Great to see you, sir.
Good to see you. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, of course. So just tell us a little bit about what you found here.
So I heard your discussion in the previous segment about the push and pull on policy and the conflict between donors and voters when politicians think about policy. And our series Master Plan is about the secret plot to legalize the kind of corruption that makes those conflicts inherent in our politics today. By deregulating the campaign finance system, by gutting anti-corruption laws, we now have a politics in our country where it is essentially a politics dictated by donors, with voters playing very little, or at least disproportionately small, a role in political decisions and policy decisions. And that's not by accident. That is the result of a very specific plan executed by very specific people with a very specific agenda to deregulate the campaign finance system and anti-corruption laws to make money determinative of our political outcomes, of our policy outcomes. That's what this show is all about. It took us 2 years to unearth this story. It really does explain everything that we're living through today.
And David, just before I get Saagar in here, we have a little bit of the promo trailer that you did to give people an additional taste of the reporting here. Let's take a listen.
When you wake up in the morning and see the recent headlines about the Supreme Court,
a judicial decision sparking a political eruption,
I'm guessing you feel overwhelmed and bewildered.
The Supreme Court overturning Roe v. Wade.
Well, it's terrifying. I don't know what's next.
You hear about the court helping corporations trample your long-standing rights.
This is a sweeping decision by the Supreme Court to overturn the Chevron precedent.
What this does is it ends 40 years of regulating big business.
You hear about the justices making it literally legal to bribe politicians.
In a 6-3 opinion, the court ruled that gifts to public officials can only be considered illegal bribes if they're given before the official act.
Seems like every few months, the Supreme Court makes it easier and easier to bribe government officials.
You even hear about the Supreme Court actually declaring that the president does not have to follow the law.
It's the first time the Supreme Court has ruled that former presidents can be shielded from criminal charges.
In every use of official power, the president is now a king above the law.
As you're doom scrolling, do you ever stop and ask, what the actual is going on? And how in God's name did we get here? Well, we have an answer for you. It wasn't a random coincidence, and it wasn't just by chance. What's happening right now is the culmination of a very deliberate and very secret scheme, executed by specific people with specific goals. I'm David Sirota. As a longtime journalist and author, I've spent decades working in and covering American politics. Our team of reporters at The Lever is about to expose the never-before-reported details of this plot in our upcoming new investigative podcast series, Master Plan.
They are actually trying to open our political world to right-wing dark money.
Something very weird is going on.
That doesn't fly. It's got to be money.
Where's all this money coming from?
We've spent 2 years reporting this story, so you're not going to want to miss it. Go to masterplanpod.com to sign up to be the first to get the series when it launches in August. You can also find the trailer and subscribe to the podcast feed right now by searching Master Plan in your podcast app.
David, can you give us a little bit of a preview of some of the things you guys uncover?
Sure. So what this does is we start at Watergate. And I think a lot of people know about the break-in, obviously. I think fewer people know that it was the first major campaign finance scandal of the modern era, that corporate money from blue chip companies at the discretion of top executives ended up funding that break-in. And that prompted what was considered the first landmark period of anti-corruption reform, but actually ended up being the last gasp of anti-corruption reform. There was a campaign finance laws that passed in the wake of Watergate. They were quickly gutted. In fact, loopholes were put into the post-Watergate anti-corruption laws to create the explosion of corporate PACs. And what ended up happening was, out of that came something called the Powell Memo. The Powell memo was written by Lewis Powell, right before he became a Supreme Court justice, which essentially urged a corporate takeover of American politics. And what we show is that in a series of task forces, that major corporations and their executives ended up executing that blueprint with a focus on deregulating campaign finance. Soon after the Powell memo, there were landmark Supreme Court decisions equating what was then a radical theory, equating money with speech, and then extending those free speech rights to corporations. In fact, that decision about corporations having the same free speech rights as human beings, that was engineered by none other than Lewis Powell. So we trace from that point up to there was a push for reform by John McCain amid the corruption scandals of the 80s and 90s. That was subsequently overturned when John Roberts and Sam Alito joined the court and worked with Anthony Kennedy. Anthony Kennedy, a former corporate lobbyist, as many people do not know. Anthony Kennedy engineered the Citizens United decision, which essentially pretended that corruption does not exist. And under that premise, basically said that unlimited spending by corporations and billionaires is now allowed. That is a very short summary of how far we've come. But the point is that all of that was engineered with a specific agenda, from specific people, with a very specific plan about how to do this. Now, you may wonder, why would anybody want to deregulate the campaign finance system? Why would anybody want to gut anti-corruption laws? The answer is that if you're talking about the threat to democracy, that's what we're talking about here. That money is the way to short circuit the one person, one vote paradigm that's supposed to undergird our democracy. We were talking about, I saw you both at the convention, right? The convention had this incredible tension where there were delegates on the floor of the convention, rank and file folks at the grassroots level, effectively representations of voters. But up in the suites, there were corporate lobbies looking to schmooze and influence politicians. What money does, what all of this money does, is it makes the people in those corporate suites who wield that money arguably more important than the people on the floor of the convention. At least their interests more important in the eyes of politicians.
Yeah, and there's a lot of research to back up that sad reality has already become the case. You mentioned the distance between, not very much physical distance, but sort of reality distance and influence distance between those on the floor and those in the suites. Chris Cuomo got a lot of attention for making this point from his new perch over at News Nation. I'm going to play that clip and get your reaction on the other side.
A big theme here at the DNC is that they're going to go after corporate gouging, and they're going to go after corporations, whether it's in taxes, largesse, loopholes. The RNC, we heard the same thing. They're going after the elites, the two sets of rules. Let me reveal a reality to you that has to be spoken to here, okay? These are the soldiers. These are the men and the women that go back to their constituencies and their communities, and they fight. They take time from their jobs. They take time from their families. Republicans and Democrats alike, that's what they do. They need to charge these people up. They need to be able to get them on board. But there's another reality that is literally looking down on them. Greg, look at the ring of suites, okay? This is not unique to Democrats. There is a game of money. When people talk about uniparty, we are strangled by the money reality in our politics. Those suites start at 500 grand. You think there's like a teacher group up in there? You think it's like the Cub Scouts of Columbia County, South Carolina, that's up in those boxes? Some of them are lobbies and good things. The media boxes, you think they're free? Why do you think I'm on the floor? News Nation is not a broke company. Nexstar is a massive organization. We are corporate media. We don't have one of those boxes because that's the game. You pay to play. Those boxes are filled with the same people that they say they're going to regulate. They are literally looking down on the faithful and being told, yeah, we're going to break down on them.
Now,
Imperfect messenger.
When he was in one of those boxes with CNN.
It was good life.
He didn't say anything about it. But now he's in a different position. He's got something to say about it. But, welcome to the cause.
We'll take it.
What did you make of it, David?
I'll be generous to Chris Cuomo and say, yes, he's late to the cause. Yes, it's probably opportunistic. But the fact that he sees an opportunity for himself in speaking to something that clearly lots and lots of people are concerned about and lots of people know and see is a problem. I think that speaks to how inherently aware most people are that our politics, whatever you want to call it, oligarchy, plutocracy, kleptocracy, our politics is barely a democracy anymore when money controls so much, not only of the policy that come out of our government, but of the discourse itself. And I think, look, you saw that last week and over the last few weeks. Kamala Harris made a couple of statements about price gouging, and corporate media freaked out. Now you've got legislators telling media that the proposal, any kind of proposal on price gouging, is dead on arrival in Congress. That is money talking. And I could give other examples. I mean, the one that sticks out to me is it's not just what we're talking about and what Congress is legislating, it's what we're not talking about and what Congress never touches. I mean, think about this. Think about how huge a healthcare crisis that we have in this country. We have health insurance companies systematically looting this country, immiserating millions and millions of people. And this topic is basically not even a conversation in our politics at all, at the same time that the health insurance industry is one of the biggest funders of American politics that we have. That's not a coincidence. And what it leaves us with is a politics where the parameters of what we can talk about, what we can hope for, what we can expect on policy is much more narrow than it should be. I keep going back to healthcare because everyone who's listening to this has struggled with or faces the potential struggle with being bankrupted by our health insurance system, our healthcare system, and yet it is barely a topic of conversation and not something that politicians want to touch. That is the power of all of the money that has been allowed to flood into our politics. That is exactly what the master planners wanted. They wanted to deregulate the campaign finance and anti-corruption laws in order to make sure we're only talking about a few things, not talking about the things that enrich them.
Yeah.
Well said.
David, I wanted you to reflect a little bit on the Democratic Party in all of this. It's my sense that there used to be, the Democratic Party has always, in this free money, big money era, has always courted that money. They've always said, listen, we got to play by the rules as they exist, but gosh darn it, when we get in there, we're going to change things. And now, outside of the Bernie Sanders of the world, I really don't hear that anymore. I feel like they've just accepted this. They've found the way for themselves to benefit and profit off of, the interest groups that are more Democratic aligned, that they get a lot of cash from. They've discovered, especially in the Clinton era and then the Obama era, that, hey, we can raise just as much corporate and Wall Street cash as the Republicans. So this isn't really a problem for us. It becomes an incumbent protection plan. It becomes the way that people like Nancy Pelosi, I mean, this is the entire source of her power, is how well connected she is within the donor community. So my sense is that Democrats have just basically ceded the issue and accepted this level of corruption in politics and, don't really have any plans or really any qualms about it at this point.
I'm glad you bring this up because it's an important point. And I would agree that the current system, that the people in both parties who are in elected office are the masters of the current system and therefore are the most resistant to changing the system, right? They're the winners of this system. That said, the Democrats are the ones who are co-sponsoring and authoring the legislation like, for instance, Sheldon Whitehouse's Disclose Act. The Disclose Act should be a bipartisan bill. The Disclose Act basically would say we can't even roll back Citizens United. We can't roll back unlimited spending in elections. It's not public financing of elections, which to my mind is the only solution here. And we can talk more about that. But the Disclose Act would simply just says, listen, dark money, anonymous money, the money that's buying elections that we don't even know who it's coming from, that has to come out into the open. And it's the Democrats who are sponsoring that bill. It's not the Republicans. Mitch McConnell has done a terrific job essentially polarizing the issue of disclosure and campaign finance so that there are essentially no Republican crossovers. Like there basically are no John McCains anymore. John McCain was the last person in American national politics who really elevated this level to a national issue. So I would say the Democrats at least are signed their names onto something like the Disclose Act. But I would also agree with you that they have not made it a priority. That it's something that they sort of know that they should be on, that they've been on in the past, that they've pushed in the past traditionally. But are they willing to put real political capital behind it? Are they willing? Is Kamala Harris, if she gets elected, is she willing to make that a major priority? I don't think there's any indication of that, and I think it speaks to what you're saying, which is that there are periodically there's some rhetoric about this, there's some tip of the hats about this, but there's not a real push to change the system. Not like we saw with John McCain back in the late 90s and 2000s. And I was talking to a friend last night. I said, when is that? Where is the John McCain of this era? I mean, I'm not a huge like John McCain's the greatest guy in the world. Like, I agree with everything he did, but I can still remember, and maybe that says how old I am. I can still remember when in 2000 and 1999, John McCain really elevated that issue, corruption, to a national issue, and I don't think it's happened since, even as the system has gotten more corrupt.
Very true.
Yeah, I think the campaign you were associated with, Bernie Sanders, I think also deserves credit for really carrying that message and pushing that forward. But he didn't end up the party's nominee, so that limits how far and how hard you can push that. David, just give people details where they can find it, how they can subscribe, what they get, all that good stuff.
So you can go to masterplanpodcast.com. That's where you can get the podcast. If you subscribe to The Lever at levernews.com, you not only get the premium version, which includes bonus episodes, bonus multimedia, transcripts of episodes, and I should say early episodes. So if you want to binge the episodes that we're putting out early, it's all there at levernews.com. Become a subscriber. And I will just add one thing. You will see as a subscriber, we put some of the documents that we found on our website for subscribers. Some of this stuff will blow your mind. What's amazing to me in doing this reporting is they wrote it all down, right? Like if you dig far enough, they wrote down their entire plan in secret memos, White House memos and the like. It's all there on our website.
Yeah, well, I've listened to the first 2 episodes, and you guys did go deep. I'm listening to Nixon secret audio recordings and learning about Rosemary's Baby with the secret donor list that they hid as well. So really, really highly recommend. Kudos to you for putting this together, David. I know it was a lot of work, and as always, great to see you, my friend.
Good to see you, man.
Thank you. Thanks to both of you.
Yeah, it's our pleasure.
Hey, if you like that video, hit the like button or leave a comment below. It really helps get the show to more people.
And if you'd like to get the full show ad-free and in your inbox every morning, you can sign up at breakingpoints.com.
That's right. Get the full show, help support the future of independent media at breakingpoints.com.